Chasing Lincoln's Killer by James L. Swanson. Presentation by Graesyn Tilmoney. Summary of events leading up to the assassination. John Wilkes Booth planned to kill Lincoln for a long time. Booth had attempted earlier, but failed. He was willing to give up his fame and fortune to have it accomplished. Booth was eating breakfast at National Hotel. He then went to Ford's Theater to pick up his mail and overheard that Lincoln would come to see a performance that night. He knew the layout of Ford's Theater extremely well. Lincoln was very excited this day. His son told him the details of Lee's surrender. He and his wife and another couple took a carriage to Ford's Theater. Lincoln and his guests arrived 30 minutes late. Once they walked in, the play stopped and the audience cheered for them. Then they reached the presidential box. Account of Lincoln's assassination. After Booth recruited a group of men loyal to him, they started their plan. He knew that the play would have an hour left until it ended. John Wilkes Booth got his horse and asked someone who worked at the theater to hold it. Then, Booth walked into the theater and walked up the staircase. He saw the door to the president's box was unguarded. With his fame, Booth made it past Lincoln's assistant, Charles Forbes, who was sitting next to the door. Booth wedged a wooden bar under the door so no one could get in or out. It was 10:13 p.m., and Lincoln was seated nearest to the inner door. Booth cocked his gun, opened the door, and shot Lincoln in the head. Booth had waited just until the right moment when there was a loud response of laughter. Not many people were aware of the president's shooting. Henry Rathbone, a guest in the box, lunged toward Booth. John Wilkes Booth stabbed Rathbone with the knife. He swung himself over the balcony and landed on the stage. Booth yelled, "The South is avenged!" The assassin ran past everyone while someone yelled, "Stop that man!" Some of the audience still thought it was part of the play. 12-day manhunt. Escaping was the only thing on the assassin's mind. He made it out of the theater and out of the city of Washington. Booth and Harold soon reached their destination, Surratt's Tavern in Maryland. There, they had access to guns. At about this time, manhunters were sent out to Delaware and Pennsylvania. Booth and Harold took refuge at the Mud Farm. By the next day, manhunters were within a few miles. On the 9th day since they had been on the run, they reached Virginia. Surratt Tavern. At the Surratt Tavern, Booth and Harold received guns from Mary Surratt. Mud Farm. At Mud's farm, Booth received help with his broken leg from Dr. Mudd. The fugitives stayed a day there. Rich Hill. The assassins hid in a pine thicket in Rich Hill. Dense Meadow. Dense Meadow is part of the Potomac River. Lucas Farm. Booth and Harold spent one night at the Lucas Farm. Garrett Farm. Booth and Harold stayed 2 days at the Garrett Farm. The Garretts let them sleep and eat there. This is the location where Booth eventually is killed.